Next on BYUSN, BYU football adds another former rival thanks to the transfer portal. What does it mean for the current status of the Cougars' offensive line?
And with the addition to the offensive line, which offensive position group are you most confident in right now?
I like them all. Every offseason, we like them all.
I like 3 of the 4. I won't tell you the one.
Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Wednesday, January 18th. I am Spencer Linton. He is Jarom Jordan. We're back together.
Let's go for one day.
Yes.
And then San Francisco Women's Hoops matinee tomorrow on Kids Day, which is full of Justin Bieber and SpongeBob.
Yeah.
It's a party. And if you put, here's the thing though, the glass, they have to be really careful about the glass because there's some high pitches there. They might shatter at some point in the second quarter when all the kids are doing their thing.
The word of the day whenever a Kids Day happens is always shrill. That is always the word of the day.
Great description for it. We're going to shrill our way through today's show. What does the offensive line look like with multiple incoming transfers, adding to Kingsley Suamatia and Connor Pay as incoming returnees, of course. Former Utah center Paul Maile joins us in studio. Why he wants to join the Cougs after back-to-back Rose Bowls. Which former Cougar coach joins a familiar BYU-laden future Big 12 opponent, and the newest Deep Blue featuring Jaxson Robinson. But first, here are today's headlines.
We just mentioned his name, Paul Maile, the starting center for Utah last season. In that Rose Bowl season, no less. Transfers from Salt Lake City down to Provo and BYU. It is the final day of the transfer window. It opens back up after spring ball for a little bit, but there is a little bit of finality to this. Maile started in 12 games in 2022, 6'5", 312 pounds, his last year of eligibility, and he logged almost 1,200 snaps last season. Welcome to BYU football.
Always good to have a guy like Paul Maile. Let's go. Men's basketball heads to the Bay Area today for a pair of important road games at Santa Clara Thursday, San Francisco Saturday. Yesterday, Mark Pope updated the status of Trevin Nell.
Doing great. He actually was in one live defensive possession in a press drill today. So he made it through one, 7-second defensive possession. I was super excited about that. He's 3 weeks away from 6 months, which is kind of the marker. And so as he gets closer, and depending on how comfortable he gets, we'll try and figure out the best thing.
The best thing to do, in my opinion, is for him to redshirt, because I would love Trevin for 2 years in the Big 12, but we'll see what Trevin chooses to do. Cougars have a 40% win chance at Santa Clara, according to Kenneth Pomeroy. Big game. Pre-game begins on BYU Radio tomorrow night, 10 Eastern Time.
Jarom, the Baylor BYU Bears add former Cougar running backs coach A.J. Stewart to the staff. He joins former BYU offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes and former offensive line coach Eric Mateos, along with a couple of offensive linemen that have left BYU and joined Baylor.
I heard that.
BYU and Baylor, we hope, play each other when that new Big 12 schedule is released at some point.
Which comes out in 2025.
All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. What's Trending presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Here comes an offensive lineman from the University of Utah, Paul Maile, to join Darryl Funk and Kalani Sitake in Provo. So, Jarom, how does the addition of Paul Maile solidify the current status of the BYU offensive line, who have had a lot of departures through graduation or the draft and certainly the transfer portal?
Yeah, let's talk about who left. So Blake Freeland's going to be day 1 or 2 tackle that's gone. Clark Barrington over to Baylor. Harris LaChance going to the NFL. Campbell Barrington went to Baylor. Those are some big names lost. So 4 of the top probably 6 or 7 linemen on the team. So that's tough. But Kingsley Suamatia was the right tackle. He'll probably move to left tackle. Connor Pay was the top graded center, or second best graded center in the country, which is pretty awesome in pass blocking specifically. Paul Maile comes in. The battle for who's the center there will be pretty interesting. I'd imagine that whoever isn't that guy could be obviously the backup or perhaps a guard. We'll see. Waylon Lapuahu comes in from Utah State, who started all 12 games. Of course, Ului punched his way through Boise State a few years ago. We like Lapuahus.
Nice.
Braden Keim is a backup tackle that figures to perhaps play prominently. Lisala Tai, they really like.
He's going to be a star.
Yes. Sione Vekoso, unfortunately, was going to be in the mix here. Tragedy in December, he passed away. Just want to always acknowledge that he was going to be part of this group. Ian Fitzgerald transfers in from Missouri State.
Yeah.
Remember, that's the team that almost beat Arkansas on the road. So he played well.
He was the highest graded offensive lineman on Missouri State's squad, for what it's worth.
I would hope so. I don't want to bring in the 5th graded guy from Missouri State. I want the top guy. And then there are other guys in the mix, but those are kind of the big names that could make this offensive line pretty stinking good. Now, will they be as good as this last year? I don't think there's any way. The top pass blocking team in the country, the 12th best run blocking team in the country, that was a really special group.
That's a lot to ask.
They don't have to be that group. They just need to be good. Now, I brought this up before. Walking into the 09 season, BYU had lost 4 of 5 starters and played Oklahoma in game 1. And we thought, oh, man, there's no way BYU is going to be able to run the ball. Harvey Young is out for that game. Oh, they showed up. So I expect this group to show up because Kingsley Suamataia is going to be an NFL pick. Connor Pace, super highly drafted, graded. Paul Maile is the starting center on a Rose Bowl team, a Power 5 champ.
Yeah.
That experience, that desire to be on BYU's team for whatever reason, which we'll find out in about 15 minutes when he comes in.
He's a 3-star.
He's great.
Yeah, he's a 3-star coming out of high school, but he's been at a Power 5 program and started there, so he feels like a 4-star.
He feels like a 4-star.
Yeah.
Braden Keim has waited his time. Lisa Latai has waited his time. Ian Fitzgerald wants to be a part of this. So I'm excited about that group, and given how good BYU was last year and what they did, and obviously Jaron Hall gets the ball out, he doesn't turn it over, that helps. I'm excited about that particular group of 6 or 7 guys, not to mention some return missionaries and other guys who've been on the team who want a shot as well, who we haven't brought up.
We haven't brought up the greatest mullet on the team, which belongs to Tyler Little, who was on the defensive line at one point last year.
Is he an offensive lineman again? I don't know.
Does he come back?
Yeah.
It's a lot to ask this offensive line, having lost so much for all of the reasons that we stated earlier, to come back and be the top-rated pass-blocking line in the country.
Like if they're top 30, it'd be like, nice.
Yeah, and be number 12 in run blocking as well. But I do think, and I'm glad that you brought up the number 30 because that's the number I was looking at. I think this group can be a top 30 position group. For sure. They bring back enough. Kingsley Suamataia is a legit 5-star. Like, we think he's going to be a 1st or 2nd round draft pick. And if you ask Aaron Roderick, he performed to that level and then some last year. Connor Pay has been, in a lot of ways, the quarterback of the offensive line. I know that a few games he lost his starting position to Joe Tukuafu.
It was just 1 game, Spence.
Okay, so for whatever reason,
1 game, whatever.
We heard the coaches say, well, Joe earned it. Okay, Connor was mad. We know that. We don't know much else beside that, but Connor earned it back. Yeah. And he's coming back for another go in the Big 12. And that's the other element here. This offensive line is now going to face 10 Power 5 opponents and 9 Big 12 opponents.
No BYU team has ever done this.
So how will that impact the pass blocking grade and the run blocking grade? You would think, just by nature of more difficult competition week in and week out, that'll drop a little bit. But I still think this group, there's enough collective experience there and enough star power, pun intended, that they can put together a top 30 group. Like, if I just say Kingsley Suamataia, Connor Pay, Braden Keim, and then mention Paul Maile,
yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, that's a top 30 group.
And continue to develop some of these other guys. What if Ian Fitzgerald comes in and he's amazing? Waylon Lapuaho. These are.
What if Lasalatai is like, whoa?
Yes. Listen, O-line is interesting. More than any other position, maybe quarterback, Spence, it takes like 2.5 years just to crack the 2 deep sometimes because you're putting on weight, you're understanding the playbook, you're working on that quickness and agility. Like, what's your arm reach? Are you a tackle or are you a guard? Like, at the next level, they just make tackles guards. Like, but in college, you can get a 6'2" guy like Paul Maile. He's a center, right? But then you get like a 6'6" guy like Kingsley, and obviously he's a dominant tackle. And BYU was so good last year at left tackle with Blake Freeland that a 5-star didn't play that position.
Wild.
He played right tackle. Right tackle is the 2nd best tackle on the team. Left tackle, obviously, the blind side made famously, for a right-handed quarterback, is your number 1 spot. If you have a lefty, you want the right tackle to be your best typically. But this is an exciting group. And are they going to be as good as last year? No. But can they be good to very good? I'm confident they will be.
And we're going to talk to Paul Maile and ask him specifically, okay, what do you expect him to do? Have they talked to you about whether or not you're going to play center? Are you going to shift over to guard?
I want to know why he came here in the first place.
Absolutely.
Like, Utah is a playoff contending team. Like, why did he leave that situation to come down here? I'm stoked. I couldn't be more excited.
Yes. Strictly from a star standpoint, if I just said, okay, Suamataia, Pay, Maile, that feels like a 5-star and 2 4-stars, and they have experience. All of
That's
them
great.
have experience.
That's great.
That anchors the offensive line. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
If I'm Keaton Slovis, I'm super happy.
Absolutely.
And maybe he knows Paul from his time in the Pac-12, right? So we'll see. Okay, topic 2. Now that we have Paul Maile in here on this January 18th, of the year of our Lord 2023, which offensive position group are you most confident in right now?
I had to think a while about this because I feel like there are wild cards in each position group. We just went through the offensive line. Like, that's pretty solid, but there are still some question marks, right? Yeah. So there's certainly a core of experience there, around 3 or 4 positions, but there's some openings there. And the running backs position, we think we know what the A-train Jaxson Robinson is going to be, right? We think. And we feel pretty good about Keaton Slovis, but again, it's all like all these new pieces through the transfer portal got to come together. The one position group that I feel like the core has been here and is still here are the pass catchers. So I'm most confident in this moment, January 18th, in the wide receivers, and let's throw in Isaac Rex as a pass catcher at tight end as well. You've got proven commodities that have been in the offense with Aaron Roderick. So just based on experience alone, and Cody Epps and Keanu Hill and Isaac Rex, Chase Roberts, all those names made big plays, made big catches, have had big moments in big games. And so I feel most confident in that group. The question there is, what are you going to do about depth? Like, what is BYU going to add to help bolster the depth of that wide receiver and that pass-catching group? Because they need something there. If one of those guys goes down, now we're kind of scratching our heads like, oh, no, who steps up?
That's where Braden Cosper leaving hurts.
Yeah, and I understand. He's been through a lot. He's had so many injuries. Yeah. I understand why he's stepping away.
I just thought he was starting to ascend, and so I was like, oh, sure, you're going to be one of the dudes.
He had his best season last season.
Yes, I thought his best season was going to be this next season. But for whatever reason, he chose to step away.
I'm going with the pass catchers. The offensive line, again, we need a few more pieces. Quarterbacks, running back, we'll see how that all develops. They've got to learn a new offense. They've all got to gel together. For me, it's the pass catchers. What about you?
It's clearly wide receivers specifically. And if you group in the tight ends, yeah, totally. Not to mention Jackson Bowers, the tight end.
Fantastic.
Like the top 300 ESPN guy. BYU does not get a lot of those. It feels like one every couple of years. Hoping BYU gets at least one every year, starting in the Big 12. Yeah, that's awesome. Running back will be interesting because there's a few guys in the wait-and-see category. Like, we know what Connor Pay is. We know what Kingsley Suamati is. We know what Paul Maile is at this level, right? We believe that Jaxson Robinson is going to be a baller. We hope he's equal to or better than what Chris Brooks was last year and hopefully healthy the whole year. Because if Chris Brooks is healthy, he's probably a 1,000-yard guy.
Yeah.
Keaton Slovis is an interesting one. And I agree with you. But let's talk about quarterbacks for a sec. Keaton Slovis, 2019 version at BYU would be pretty stinking good. Now, it's been a minute, but he finally gets a more than capable offensive coordinator. We love the way Aaron Roderick has run the offense. BYU's been pretty good the last couple of years, producing NFL draft picks and back-to-back quarterbacks. Like, if I'm Keaton, yeah, that's why I came here, because John Beck says, go there.
Yeah.
Look at what A-Rod has done with these guys.
And he's throwing to proven commodities.
Yes, and he's got a solid, good offensive line in the last couple of years that will have produced 2 left tackles in the NFL draft, which is pretty good as well. And Brady Christian. Like, think about what BYU is doing, by the way. Once Jaron and Blake are drafted, you can say back-to-back quarterbacks, back-to-back left tackles. And we're now talking, Spence, was it you or Dave? I can't remember. Shep brought up, I can't remember. Like 4 NFL running backs in a row.
Wild.
If things go well for Chris.
Yes, we have discussed that recently.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, this is BYU's taking an upward trajectory at running back, which is exciting. This has never really been a place where we've said, yeah, NFL running backs come here.
Skill positions.
You look back in the history of BYU, they don't do anything in the NFL. Like, and it's been a bummer, right? Like, Luke Staley was unbelievable. Like, cup of coffee, post him in the NFL, which was tough with the injuries, right? Lake Himuli was amazing, some time with the Bears, but didn't make a huge splash, right? We're excited about what Tyler and Jamal and Tyson Williams is hanging in there on rosters. Like, that's good enough, let alone 1,000 yards from 2 guys. This is incredible. So quarterbacks, Keaton obviously has the potential, the trajectory to be amazing. Like, didn't work out at Pitt because Mark Whipple, the guy that got Kenny Pickett to be the only quarterback taken in last year's first round, former UMass coach, the BYU face, by the way, he left.
He left.
And so it wasn't the same group. So the continuity of A-Rod and what BYU's been doing the last couple of years, exciting. We hope that Jake Retzloff is a baller as well. And the hope is that he redshirts, that he plays 4 games or fewer, and that he can compete to be the guy the next year, and that BYU brings in more Power 5-like guys and continues to develop. Cade Fennegan and Ryder Burton and so on and so forth. Bolje Mayava, like who knows, you know.
He might move positions altogether.
Like if you said, hey, Soldier, you're a safety, like that athleticism right now.
I'd take him as a safety, absolutely.
I would, because his arm's not the starting Big 12 arm that BYU needs, but he is very athletic, and there's a spot for him somewhere. But quarterback's interesting to me too. But receiver is and a little bit of O-line is the only real position where we can say, okay, we know what we've got with at least 3 guys.
Yes.
Like a certain percentage of that group. We know what we have with Keaton, we think, but it's been a minute since he's had a very productive year.
He's got to learn the offense. The receivers have been in the offense, right?
I'm confident that a fourth-year guy like Keaton can learn this offense. He's here in the spring. So is, right now, rather. Jake Retzloff is in school as well. They'll both be here. Spring ball will be really entertaining because almost nothing is more entertaining than a quarterback conversation. And it's not a battle per se. I think we can confidently say, like, Keaton's going to walk in as a starter, and we go from there. But Jake needs to be ready. Cade and Ryder need to be ready. You never know. BYU is going to play one of the physically toughest schedules it's ever played. I think there have been some years where BYU played like 7 Power 5s plus Boise State and so on and so forth, where it was stacked and there were 4 right up front, and it was hard. This year, BYU can somewhat ease into it physically with Sam Houston, who's a talented FCS team becoming FBS. FCS in Southern Utah,
yes,
Arkansas, and then we don't know when the bye week is, but I'm hoping it's after the 3rd week in the Big 12.
Okay.
That way you can go half and half. Just,
okay.
Oh my gosh, 3 games. Here we go. And hopefully you can get a nice start there with 2-1 or something and feel like, okay, we're in the mix here. We're going well.
Listen, I can't wait to find out the Big 12 schedule on August 1st. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be incredible. Yes. You want to know what the wide receiver group is at BYU? It's your favorite lunch at your go-to spot. So
which is Noodles and Company,
yes,
Penny Rosa with Parmesan crusted chicken breast. That is my favorite.
And you add a side salad.
And I go, yes, I do, Caesar. Chase Roberts, a little Keanu Hill.
That is what the wide receiver group is.
And the tight, I like the it's cheating a little, but I'm cool with it. Right? The pass catchers,
You want to like branch out occasionally, but it's like,
not really.
No, I'm gonna do this. I feel the most confident in this.
I love learning things, but I don't want to learn what other foods I like that much.
Give him the penne rosa and the side salad.
It's so good.
Question of the day.
With Parmesan cheese, by the way.
Is this, which BYU football offensive position group are you most confident in right now? What's your penne rosa group? At N_Crowley19 on Twitter says, depth-wise, it has to be quarterback.
Okay.
3 guys that have started Division I games and the best JUCO quarterback out of California in the portal. But I feel most confident in the wide receivers. Kibo, Chase on the case, and Cody have all shown they can be elite.
Hold on, QB that started D1 games. Just
Bolje Mayava.
Keaton and Bolje has the one.
Yes.
But that's it, right? It's just 2?
Is it just 2?
Because Cade hasn't played. Oh,
okay,
sorry, Boise State.
Cade started Boise State.
You're right. Okay, you're right. Thank you.
This is right.
Thank you. No, wanted to understand.
Hashtag BYUSN to join the conversation.
So, but 2 of them, they're like 1 game?
It still counts.
It does count. Gets BYU basketball with Mark Pope on demand. He started a few D1 games himself. Join the coach, Greg Wrubell, guests Tanner Toolson and Tanner Hayhurst for Nerd Quest and much more. It's on demand on BYUSN.com and the BYU TV app.
Up next, BYU has joined elite company once again. We don't use that word in vain. We'll explain next on BYU Sports Station. Hey, not anymore. Come on.
Thank you.
Finally.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
Wrapping up in a Minky Couture luxurious blanket. Getting cozy with family and friends. A gift for everyone. Minky Couture, official luxury blanket of BYU Athletics. At BYU, we believe wholeheartedly in expanding joy.
And that joy comes from learning and serving. Some of the best, most lasting learning happens when we serve, when we experience, when we connect in real, lasting ways. It's what we call inspiring learning. Learning that inspires us to create a better world, to do and be better. After all, light shared is the best kind of light.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
This competition is going to be something else. You have to be able to break through those hard moments when it hurts the most.
Whatever you think you're capable of is true.
You're a fighter. Hold your head up. You know what you're capable of. We're all proud of you.
That's what makes a champion.
Let's go! Wow!
We are live in Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. We don't typically do it at this juncture of the show, but let's call an audible and whip it.
Mix it up.
Cougar Whip Around presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Bender, Fox Sports tweeted out a graphic with schools with an AP first-team All-Pro NFL player. Fred Warner, of course, gets the stretch Y on there. Awesome. Also Rutgers, weird. South Alabama, congratulations. What's your reaction to BYU in this group?
Not shocked at all, Jarom, because Fred Warner has been there for a while. You know, it's always nice. It's always nice to see BYU on a list like this, and I expect BYU to be on this list for a while because Fred's kind of at the peak of his powers, right?
He's in his prime. Can we show the graphic one more time? Look at some of the schools in the top line there. You got Georgia and Alabama. That's kind of fun, right? Notre Dame and LSU and Ohio State stick out. Oklahoma. Yeah. So Florida. Yeah.
It's great to have BYU represented.
It's awesome. Congrats to Fred, who, I'll say it again, is clearly the best defensive player in the NFL in BYU history.
Yeah, kind of a shock.
BYU's not had an all-pro NFL player from BYU before, and he's done it twice.
That's fantastic.
And that's saying a lot. Leon White, Kurt Gouveia, Jason Buck, all these guys, they've been pretty awesome.
Does he have BYU's best shot to get a Super Bowl championship this year, or is it Andy Reid?
If Brock Purdy plays well, Niners' path is easier than Andy Reid's in the UFC.
Love to see Fred get a Super Bowl ring. That'd be fun. A.J. Stewart, former BYU running backs coach, becomes the third former BYU Cougar coach to land on Baylor's coaching staff. Joining Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos. And that's on top of the Barrington brother transfers over to the offensive line.
5 dudes.
Does this feed that much more into a possible rivalry with Baylor?
1,000,000%,
yeah.
bro. We played 2 games 2 years in a row already. I really hope Baylor's on the schedule this next year. 3 coaches, 2 players, like you mentioned. Same league this year. Both Christian schools, Bears and Yes! It's not like TCU because we played in the same league. Like, the team that you're kind of like, are you the St. Mary's?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like Baylor a little bit, although it's friendly. I wouldn't say there's vitriol, but you just wait. There will be moments with several teams in the Big 12 where you go, oh, we have like 5 St. Mary's now.
Yes. Well, and there were already people last year when Baylor came back to Provo, they're like, I want to beat Grimes for what he did to us in Waco.
And they said it like really weird.
It's already formulating. And let's not forget our friend Caleb Lohner, who transferred from BYU to Baylor in men's basketball and seemingly is having a great career over there now.
Shaylee Gonzalez having a great year at Texas.
Yeah.
So you want Texas in the Marriott Center. Little
Texas
fun
and
there.
Baylor feel like the early favorites as rivals in the Big 12.
And we can compete. Like, sports are awesome. You compete, you get after it, and then you hug it out after. You know, it's all good. Okay, Uniform Authority gave BYU the #1 best blackout uniform in the nation. Was this BYU's best jersey last season?
Not the best jersey, the best helmet.
You love the helmet.
But not the best jersey. Nice. I am still partial to the royal blue helmet, the white jersey, and the royal blue pants. That is my favorite combo.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. BYU wore it against USC and won a couple of years ago. They won it against Stanford and won their regular season finale this year. I love the royal blue helmet, and it's shiny now with the white jersey and the royal blue pants.
I like the royal out, which BYU wore against Baylor, by the way, this year. I think that looks pretty slick, too, though. I am a sucker for the white helmet. I think it's the best helmet that BYU has.
The white helmet is classic, right? Yeah, tradition.
Yeah, just Wilson and Young, and they all wore the white helmet.
Hey, aside from the game at Liberty, BYU had the white helmet, the white jersey, and the blue pants. Also a very clean look. Wasn't a great result that day, but I love that look.
I don't attach looks of jerseys to results. There's no correlation there for me. I know the white out. A long-time fans were like, no, the white out, they're
cursed.
Come on. Wear it against an FCS opponent. Let's see what happens. Come on.
How about this? The Pac-12 will release their 2023 schedule today. Is that an early win for the Pac-12 over the Big 12?
I don't care. We'll get the schedule in the next couple weeks or months, whatever. It's okay.
It's late January.
Who cares about those wins? Although the Pac-12 this year was really, really good. They were fantastic.
We're just excited because it's BYU's first year.
Yeah.
Are all the other Big 12 teams like, give me the schedule now? I don't think they're feeling as much urgency as the new teams are.
We're new at the party.
Yes.
We're stoked to be there.
I want to know.
We're walking in the door. We're a little too loud. You know what I mean? Like
we showed up 30 minutes early with our, macaroni salad.
Party.
We brought macaroni salad. Can we come in?
At BYU, yes, we would. Like, you guys don't like mac salad? Check out Lauren Gustin and the Cougars hosting San Francisco tomorrow. Big game in league. Don's a really good team. Cornelius a tremendous player on the other side, leading scorer. More on that later in fantasy, probably from Spence. 1 Eastern on BYU TV right after BYU Sports Nation tomorrow. Tomorrow's essentially a pregame show for that game.
Hey, the women are riding a 6-game win streak.
Yes, they are.
Trying to make it 7. Up next, the newest addition to the BYU football roster, Paul Maile, is hanging out with us in Studio B. Why was Provo the right place for him at this point in his life? This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Hey, much more of that coming up in 2023. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. You can follow the show on social media, BYU Sports Nation, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.
Joining us now in Studio B is the newest member of the BYU football team. was announced yesterday. Center coming over from the University of Utah, but now he's a BYU Cougar, Paul Maile.
Yeah.
Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, Paul.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
I like the look, dude. You must be a confident dude.
Nah, this is my friend's brand, man. It's my friend's older brother, Frontline, man. Shout out Frontline.
Oh, nice.
It looks comfortable.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it is comfy, man.
You're the second former Ute to come on a BYU TV show in massive pink. Samson Nakua had a big old pink, like fluffy, what's it called? I can't remember. But it's basically just a blanket.
The blanket that you wear?
Maybe a comfy. Yeah, anyways.
Yes.
It exudes confidence.
I was going to wear my gray comfy today. So that's funny.
Hey, all good, man. You can wear that next time you're on the show. What have the last 48 hours been like for you as all of this has become official?
Shoot, man, it's been crazy, hectic, just a lot of mixed emotions, and you know what I mean, and I never saw myself coming down here, but just coming on an official and meeting Kalani, man, hearing his plan, and just meeting all the staff, man, and all the boys that reach out to me show love, all the staff reach out, show love, so, man, it's different, and I love being down here, but yeah, the last, 24 hours have been crazy, just BYU fans showing love, man, and just, yeah, I had to turn off my phone, man. It was too much.
Too much positivity?
Yeah.
You got a well-groomed mustache, so you fit in right away, which is great. What went into the decision, one, to transfer, and then two, to pick BYU?
Just the decision to transfer was I just feel like I needed something new. I'd been at Utah for, you know what I mean, I'm old, man, for 5 years, so.
You fit in if you're old enough.
And it's just, I just wasn't anything with the boys. I love the boys up there, love the coaches up there. Got nothing but love for everybody up there. It's just I needed something new for me and just needed a fresh start.
What kind of newness were you seeking? Because, you know, back-to-back Rose Bowls and playoff contention, right? Certainly that's exciting competitively, but obviously there's more to life than what happens on the field.
I guess it's just a new start. Like, all I've ever known was Salt Lake City, Utah, you know what I mean? I'm from Salt Lake City, you know what I mean? I never left.
East High, repping?
East High, yes, sir. Shout out the Leopards, man. Shout out East High. Yeah, it's just I needed something fresh, man. All I've ever known is Salt Lake, and I just feel like you can only grow when you're in uncomfortable situations, and shoot, I'm really uncomfortable down here, you know what I mean? This side, I never thought I'd see myself down here, but like I said, you know what I mean? I just came and talked to Kalani, man, and he's a dude, man. He's a dude.
Yeah.
Coach Funk, man, he's a dude too, and I appreciate them just even reaching out, man, so.
Hey, for what it's worth, you say you're an old guy. I feel like you're kind of a young guy at BYU still. even after 5 years, it's all good, yes. And the experience is a huge addition to this offensive line. I want to get into the details of where you feel like you've fit in the offensive line, but first I want to follow up with your visit with Kalani and how that impacted you, because clearly that had a huge factor in you coming to BYU. What was said? What kind of a vision did he lay out for you?
Man, it's just like, if y'all know, like, honestly, leading up to it, like, I've heard nothing but good things about Coach Kalani, and just, like, I was just like, bro, like, everything everybody's saying about him, like, it can't be real. Like, there's, like, all these people saying nothing but good things. Like, there got to be something wrong. Like, I feel like everybody lying at this point. And so, it's like, I got to meet the dude for myself, and it's just, I mean, I didn't really know where I was going to end up, and so BYU was the first. I wouldn't even really say, like, an official visit. Like, I came down for it was just one day, a couple hours, came around the facility, like, looked at, like, the weight room, looked at all the, O-line room, and just met with all the coaches. And, yeah, man, it's just, y'all just know how he is, man. It's like, it wasn't even really, like, anything he said, just, like, his aura, man, and just the type of dude, like, just good vibes. And, man, I believe in what, him, Coach A-Rod, and Coach Funk trying to do down here, man. And I want to be a part of something like that, man. And I know they got all the trust in me, man, and I trust them, so I know we can do something special.
All our decisions in life in any situation are based on what you want out of that experience. That's at least my experience. I guess what do you want out of this experience, and how did kind of BYU cater to that?
I don't know. It's my last year, you know what I mean? And I feel like I just wanted to make the biggest jump I could, and just Skylar Main's a big dude. He's here, man, and I work with Skylar a lot, you know what I mean? And
sports scientist, got the big mustache.
Yeah,
You've seen him on the sidelines.
He's a guru, man. He's a dude too. So it's just
because he's worked at Utah and BYU, right?
Yeah, it's just boys. Like, we'll go. You know what I mean?
Go work out with him independently.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So it's just there's boys from everywhere. I mean, you got NFL dudes that go there, and it's just he told me he was down here, man. So that was like the main thing that got me through the door. But just when I met with Kalani, man, like he's a dude, man. I got nothing but good things to say about him. As for growth, like, what I'm looking for is just I know what I'm capable, man, and I know what I can do. It's just, I just wanted a fresh start, and I just wanted a good culture, man. So I wanted to, just have fun playing football, and Kalani and them boys saying, like, we're going to have fun. So it's just, I was like, let's do it then, you know what I mean?
New BYU offensive lineman Paul Maile is on BYU Sports Nation as the Cougars transition into the Big 12. You know the Power 5. You played in the Pac-12. But now to where you feel like you fit in on this offensive line. Connor Pay, you mentioned to us before we came back that you're going to hang out with him a little bit later today and watch some film. He's been playing center at BYU. Where do you see yourself fitting in on the offensive line this year?
I can play center, guard, I mean, anywhere, or even if they just need me to coach up, you know what I mean, help out the young dudes, it's just wherever they need me, I can play. Of course, I prefer playing center. I like to run the show, you know, I like to make the calls, but wherever, you know what I mean, coach feel like they need me, and wherever I can fit best with those, you know what I mean, those 5, and where they need me in that room, man. So it don't really matter to me, it's just wherever I can help the team. Which is awesome because we were talking about the offensive line. Like, listen, not everybody talks O-line. We were talking O-line in the A-block, which is fun. Kingsley's obviously a future NFL guy. Hopefully you're an NFL guy, right? Connor Pay was highly graded, second best PFF grade in pass blocking. And then you bring in some other transfers. Like, what about that group kind of excites you as you get to know these guys? And after last year's amazing offensive line from BYU, that you guys hope to continue that note? Iron sharpen iron, man, you know what I mean? It's good to be around dudes that got the same goals as you, that want to grind, you know what I mean? And like you're saying, I mean, they're NFL dudes. It's like, I'm an NFL dude too, so it's like, let's work together, you know what I mean? And just make each other better. What did you learn at the University of Utah that you feel like is going to help you transition right away into the Big 12? Hard work, man. You know what I mean? Those up there at the U, man, they know how to work hard, so it's just, I feel like I'm going to give them my all every day, and just, you won't have to question, you know what I mean, if the work's being done, like it's going to be done. So. How much of BYU going to the Big 12 was influential for you? Because you haven't mentioned it to this point. If BYU was independent, would BYU still have been a great option for you? Or was the Big 12 a big thing for you? Honestly, I didn't even consider that. It was more just meeting Kalani. Like, even if they're still independent, like, I had that conversation and it went the way it went. Like, you know what I mean? I want to run through a wall for that dude. You feel me? Like, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, he tends to make that happen, right? This is something that we hear often when players interact with Kalani Sitake. There's something about, you know, that bond, and it happens quickly. So we're still trying to figure out what that is. You said you just know. What is the special factor? I don't know, man. It's just like, I barely even know the dude too. Like, we've probably only known each other for 2 weeks, you know what I mean? But it's just like, I don't know, like, when I first entered the portal, he called me like within 2 minutes, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I was like, this dude really, you know what I mean? It was just unreal, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, he got good vibes, man. It's his aura, and just, yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just, I know he's real though, and I know it's like, he's not feeding me no, you know what I mean, no BS or nothing. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's legit, one of the best people. So if I read this right, your stepdad's Henry Kafusi? Yes, sir. So Kafusi's on both sides of the rivalry are fun, but maybe we traded Devin for you in like a first-round pick in the future or something. What's the Kafusi clan like with Henry and obviously all the Kafusis on both sides of this rivalry? It's just family-oriented, man. It's just, they support me wherever I go. And just like when Dev first came down to Utah, you know what I mean? It's just, it was all love, and it's just... You're like, hey, cousin. Yeah, no, exactly. That's how we always greet each other. Like, and me and Dev got really close while he was at Utah, so I'm grateful he was there, and I got to, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't really, like, we weren't all that close. You know what I mean? He grew up in Provo, I grew up here in Salt Lake, so, like, being able to play with each other for those last 2-3 years, it was nice, man. And just, yeah, it's just Kafusi family, man. It's bigger than football, so... Yeah, an amazing family. For sure. That family tree is just littered with awesome people and athleticism. And we're talking with Paul Maile on BYU Sports Nation. Paul, you said Kalani called you like 2 minutes after you put your name in the portal. When you were deciding to put your name in the portal and ultimately decided, like, yeah, I'm going to do it, was BYU on the radar at all at that point? I mean, I was just considering anywhere, you know what I mean? And it's just like my only like thing I knew about BYU really was Skylar Maine. And I mean, he's a dude too. Like, I love Skylar, man. And so I feel like he's just what got my foot in the door, wanted to check it out. But yeah, I wasn't even, like, my options was anywhere. Like, I was like open to go anywhere. It's just whatever the right fit was. And it just happened to be like my first trip, man. Let's talk more about Dr. Maine, Dr. Skylar Maine.
What is it that he does that influences you and others so much? Because you said he was the reason you kind of got in the door here.
It's just, it's the same thing like about Kalani, man. He's just a dude, and he's just like real. You could feel like, I mean, talking with them, it's just like, I don't know, like you can just tell, you know what I mean? It's the vibe, and it's just conversation, and it's just, anytime I go work with them, it's just been love. I never felt nothing bad from him, so it's just building that connection and just, I mean, he made me really want to come check it out and just, I mean, hear them out. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it.
As far as the school timeline goes, you are enrolled and in classes right now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how has that transition been? Because there's not much time there. Like, you make a decision, now all of a sudden you're in school. So what's that been like as you acclimate to BYU from a class perspective?
It's just, yeah, it's crazy, honestly. I mean, school's always, I mean, football's the hardest thing, you know what I mean, about college football. So I feel like school, you just get it done. So I just stay on top of it. It's just, school's the same at Utah as it is here, so just got to get it done.
Well, BYU needed somebody to replace their East alum, Joe Tukuafu.
Yes, need a leopard. So need to maintain at least
Joe
one
Tukuafu leaves. Got to have one more coming. Paul, you're there to fill that void,
yes,
and be part of the offensive line. Hey, we're so grateful to talk with you today, man. Welcome to BYU.
You related to Frank, by the way?
Frank's my dad's brother.
Your uncle?
Yeah.
Straight up uncle?
Yeah.
Frank's a good dude.
Frank's a dude,
That's
too, man.
awesome,
I love Frank. Love my Maile side, too, man. I'm blessed to have two great families, man.
Fantastic. Okay, Paul.
Boise State, which BYU played last?
So we should know, when you come on the show, just by nature of you granting us some of your time, you get BYU Sports Nation karma. And you can utilize that however you want.
I appreciate y'all, man.
Using class, using a spring.
Wherever you want to use it. Life will be good. It'll get better.
That's cool. I appreciate it.
Well, welcome to BYU, man. Great to have you.
Y'all. Thank you for
Paul Maile with us on BYU Sports Nation as that offensive line group starts to really come together.
Can't wait, man. Can't wait for him to pancake a ton of fools in the Big 12. It's going to be awesome. Okay, BYU Gymnastics. Back home for the first time Friday night, taking on Boise State. 9 Eastern time on BYU TV. Cougars getting better.
Yeah, took a nice step forward score-wise in their last meet. And up next, it was another winding road for BYU basketball player Jaxson Robinson. We go deep blue to find out why he picked Provo. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Whether you want to rock your retirement on the court, on the snow, on the waves, or in the gym. At Mountain America, we're here to help you get things rolling. Learn more at macu.com/retirement. Mountain America, guiding you forward.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
Why are you here then? I stammer. No one can fix it. Aren't you going to start treating me? Only if you're interested in being treated.
Your methods were both unorthodox and controversial.
Long live the king.
I'm trying to get you to realize you needn't be governed by fear.
Get up, you can't sit there. Listen to me! Why should I waste my time listening? Because I have a voice!
Yes, you do.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B, and we flip the page to basketball, specifically Deep Blue. After stops at Texas A&M and Arkansas, Jaxson Robinson has found a home at Brigham Young University. This is Deep Blue featuring BYU basketball player Jaxson Robinson.
This is gonna sound crazy, but when Jaxson was 2, I bought him a little tight basketball goal and I put it together. Had a little orange ball that came with it, and he picked it up and shot it with perfect form the first time. I mean, like, absolutely perfect form. So I gave it back to him, and he shot it again. And I picked up the phone and called my dad and said, you have to come over here and see this. And since then, he's just always loved basketball.
It's a big basketball family. I come from a lot of hoopers.
He played on his first team when he was 4, and the coach after the season was like, you guys need to put him on a real team because he knows what he's doing. He could dribble, he could shoot a layup. So from a very early age, he loved it, and he obviously had some natural talent for it.
My grandma, she was a Hall of Famer. My aunt, she went to Southeastern. She was also a Hall of Famer. My mom went there after transferring from Missouri State. She became a Hall of Famer also.
I think it was great for him as a basketball player. He had lots of people he could look to for advice, and even though he might not see it as help, we often give him critical feedback that he might not love to hear, but we give it to him anyway because we know it's best for him.
And so it's been really neat to see, right, that confidence that Jax has in his game and how that has grown, right, over the years and where we're able to see him, but also that he understands the game at a really high level because he's been taught really, really well from a couple of strong women in his life.
Just the motivation of my family and friends and everything, it just kept me going, and now I'm here today.
Freshman year was tough. He graduated high school a year early, so he went to Texas A&M as a 17-year-old.
COVID had just hit. We couldn't get on campus, so I didn't have a summer with my fellow teammates and my coaches.
It's tough to leave your kid somewhere and hope they do all right. But I mean, I knew he'd be all right, but, you know, I don't like him struggling, things like that. So it was tough down there at Texas to see him in that situation.
You know, it was just difficult kind of adjusting to college from high school so fast. It was a fast transition. During the season, some of us kept getting COVID, things like that. And it was just rough. We finished last in the SEC, so.
I think that team just really struggled to find themselves and to create any kind of bonds just based on the fact that they were spending no time together other than when they were practicing. I think the stress was hard for the players, the stress was hard on the coaching staff, and ultimately it just led to Jaxson just not finding a great fit.
Just kind of going through that struggle, though, I think it kind of made me who I am. Just going through those ups and downs, it taught me a lot of lessons.
And then after his first year transfer to Arkansas, really good program, didn't really have the opportunity that he was seeking. And then year 3.
We went to dinner with Coach Pope, most of the coaching staff, and Trevin and Trey. And Trevin told the coaches, you guys leave. They want to just let them ask us questions without you here listening so we can be totally honest and they don't feel like they can't ask. And so the coaches left for like 45 minutes and left us with those two. And we had a very open and honest dialogue with them, and they told us all about what the team's goals are, kind of how they interact with one another, how the coaches are. And they said they're exactly who they are all the time. This is exactly how they are. And that was just a really good feeling because Jaxson was looking for a place to go where he felt valued as a player and also as a person, and what place he could build relationships with the coaches that had been something he'd been lacking.
I think he's found a home here where we certainly love having him here, and I think he fits in here perfectly.
We take a lot of pride in helping, right, Jax and all of our guys, right, grow in every aspect of their life. We believe that he can grow as a basketball player in a lot of ways. We also believe that he can grow off the court through his academic experience, through his NIL experience, and through every other experience that he has here in the state of Utah at BYU, so that he can go forth and serve and be the best human being he can be when he finishes time here at BYU.
Jaxson's someone who is very unselfish. He has such a kind heart. And he's also very determined. So when you have someone who has such a big focus on giving back to people and doing the right thing in situations, and then you see someone who's so focused, it's someone who wants to make a difference. So he sees something that could be unjust or someone struggling in a situation, and he really does everything he can to try to make that situation better for them. And I think it's been really neat to watch him from a very early age think about things that I don't think most kids think about, and then try to do what he can to help in those situations.
I feel like a lot of people have sacrificed for me to be where I'm at, so the support that I got, I can give it back to whoever. I just want to be able to return the favor at some point.
Deep Blue with Jaxson Robinson, and you can see elements of his game in big moments in that Gonzaga game. You know, if BYU wins that game, okay, and I know it hurts to say that that's one of Jaxson Robinson's moments where he's hitting deep threes.
It's his best game ever.
Yes.
Because of who you're playing and how you play.
Oh, wow.
He could have had more points against other teams for the fact that he was 5 of 7 from 3. Obviously, he's probably feeling bad about going 1 for 2 down the stretch. Otherwise, it's a tie from Strother, not a go-ahead. But 29 points the last 2 games. 77% of his shots are from 3. He's a good three-point shooter, 34%. Certainly can get that to go up. But remember, at Texas A&M in Arkansas, dude barely played, and like I just talked about, COVID set him back there. Arkansas was unbelievable. Knocked out Gonzaga, by the way, in last year's NCAA tournament. He had been on a team that beat Gonzaga. He had been there. Mom Brandy, tremendous player at Missouri State, went to 3 NCAA tournaments. You can see it. She's a baller. Aunt Crystal is a WNBA coach with the assistant with the Phoenix Mercury. She played as well. So he's got that pedigree.
Sure.
Certainly finding consistency there is a thing for him. But I'm super glad he's at BYU because BYU doesn't get 6'7" dudes that can shoot it from 3 with a 7'2" wingspan. Like, physically, he is unique in BYU history. And I'm glad that we have a couple years of Jaxson Robinson.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome.
He can be disruptive defensively, too.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the length. Like, we've seen moments where, like, oh, there's a block shot. And he's got his hands in passing lanes. He's getting tipped balls. And yeah, Jaxson Robinson, the dim metric, coaches
defensive impact.
Love him for that specifically. It's not just his three-point shooting. And I mean, you ask Mark Pope, he actually wants Jaxson to get on attack a little bit more and not just create three-point shots. But like we saw, there was a moment in the Pepperdine game where he attacked and then kind of stepped back and hit less little 8 to 10 foot floater. And that's what they're talking about. Like they want to see more of that, the different array of shots, because he's capable of doing that.
He's so smooth, he doesn't look like he's working hard. Like, he doesn't look like he ever sweats. He absolutely works hard and sweats. But the way he plays is extremely smooth. So he's going to get better and better. He and Gideon George, by the way, the only 2 players who have started every game this year. Like, his consistency enough to merit starting at that position all year. No Trevin Knell, Spencer Johnson's been hurt. You've needed Jaxson and Gideon to be level-headed, consistent, available, the best abilities, availability. They've had that. It's been great, man. And he's going to continue to get better. And listen, the dude's been in the SEC for 2 years. Didn't play a ton, but he's been in the fight. Now he's going to be in his 3rd league next year, and Big 12 basketball is no joke.
See, to me, he feels kind of like the wild card for the BYU guard line at this point.
He could have 17 in the game and hit 5 threes. He could also, against Pepperdine, went 1 of 7 from 3. There's some games where he's still figuring that out, but he's a really good player. And again, he's super young. He went to high school as a 17-year-old. I think he's 19. He may have barely turned 20. Super young in his basketball life.
If he shoots 45% or better, like, I feel like BYU is going to win the game because he's taking 7 threes. So if he makes like 3 of 7 from distance, I feel like BYU is going to win most games.
I'll take it. You certainly need more, right?
More from the guard line altogether.
But it makes you feel confident. If that's going, what else is going?
Yeah, Sean Farnham, our good buddy, said BYU just needs more from their guard line. They need more scoring from the guard play. And he mentioned Jaxson Robinson specifically and Spencer Johnson and Rudy Williams. I feel like we know what Spencer's going to be and what he is right now. He's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Jaxson Robinson and or Rudy Williams. Can you imagine if Rudy and Jaxson go off in the same game? Good night. Game over.
Yeah.
BYU wins.
Yeah.
One of those two, I still like BYU's chances, and they're going to need one of those two in the next 3.
Yes.
Holy cow.
In the immediate. And then looking down the road, Jackson's a huge part of what BYU is going to do the next 3 seasons in the Big 12.
He's going to the biggest and baddest basketball conference in America. Let's
baddest is slang in this case. Men's volleyball back in the Smith Fieldhouse on Friday night. 13th ranked Cougs taking on Fairleigh Dickinson out of New Jersey. 9 Eastern time on the BYU TV app. Saturday we'll be back on BYU TV because we got gymnastics Friday. We got a doubleheader.
Yes, I'm not familiar with Fairleigh Dickinson's mascot, by the way.
The Knights.
The Knights. Yeah. There you go. Okay, I'll stock that away. Up next, Jarom's perfect record in fantasy basketball is on the line once again. He's 7-0. Will he get to 8-0 this week? Probably. But we're going to play anyway. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Come on, Lauren Gustin.
Difference maker.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by The BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
You know, the passion that the BYU fans bring, it is unique. The fans, they contribute so much to our team and help our players kind of get refocused. The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country. BYU fans, they've been supportive through thick and thin. There's times when you're down 2 sets. Because the fans stayed, they were engaged. They brought that energy, that belief. You know, there's no doubt that it lifted the guys, and when things started going our way, that changed the momentum of the entire match. The fans are so close that they feel a part of the team. It's really a benefit to our guys. They mean everything to our program. Men's volleyball, it is about the fans.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
If you've got the internet, BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU Radio apps. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast as well.
What is this internet that you speak of?
Intranet is a thing that we used to use often here at BYUB.
Like as in the net from the movie that Sandra Bullock starred in?
Yeah, that was a good movie.
1997 or whatever it was.
It's like Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf.
Jump out this window.
No, thank you.
All right, tomorrow I'm going to be over at the Marriott Center getting ready for Kids Day as the BYU women's basketball
Every day
team
is
San
Kids Day in
Francisco.
your house.
We got to make our fantasy basketball transactions today. I'm on a 7-week losing streak, so I get the first transaction. I'm going with Brandon Pajimski from Santa Clara. He's a monster.
Super legit.
Okay, so I'm adding him as my opponent. Gideon George, Spencer Johnson remain, Nani Falatea. I'm dropping Rose Bubakar, and I'm adding Ariel Mackey-Williams, who is now starting.
I add my opponent. You are transact. That you have to wait.
We can't wait. Are you doing anything?
Add Khalil Shabazz. Okay. So now you can
I'm adding Ariel Mackey-Williams.
There is order.
All right.
Do this. Foose, Rudy, Lauren Gus, and Kaylee Smila. And
let's be honest. You have Lauren, so you're probably going to win. That's the difference.
And Foose.
The question of the day is this. Which BYU football offensive position group are you most confident in right now? Elite Voice of the Day presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated. From Evan Hall on Twitter says, if it's not wide receivers, you're lying to yourself. Hill, Epps, and Roberts all produced big time for the Cougs last season. Can't wait to see what they do in the Big 12.
Amazing, yep.
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Paul Maile, welcome to BYU. Great to have you, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Fun
Thanks to Paul for joining us today.
Sorry to Dennis, we ran out of time.
For Jarom Jordan, I am Spencer Linton. Shout out to Larry Moore. We'll see you tomorrow for BYU Sports Nation, followed by BYU Women's Basketball. Go Cougs.
Good center pull on Moore.